Hi guys, OB Dave here.
And I am Ash.
Together we are OB Dave and I am Ash.
Yeah.
Ash is literally a scientist with degrees and years of experience in clinical research. And I am an idiot YouTuber and I still argue to the death with you about science.
Don't oversell me. I work in a lab.
In clinical research?
Yeah.
When you've got degrees?
Well, I've got 1.5 degrees. And the other one was in radiography. Because I thought x-rays were fun. And then I decided it wasn't. So
I've got half a degree.
You see? That's it. So you're smart. And you don't need a degree for everything.
I agree, completely. But yeah, I'll still argue about science even though I don't know.
I know he likes to wind me up.
I actually fully believe all the stuff we just debated.
No, I know you do.
I'm not saying it to wind you up.
But I don't. And it's fun to have a debate, not an argument. It's a difference.
I know, it wasn't an argument.
No.
We should talk about it for another 5 minutes before we get into this video.
No, let's get into this because I'm sure people have had enough of us waffling on about things.
Well, now I've got you good and riled up. We're going to do a bit of Bill Burr.
Oh, God. You guys are always suggesting him, and I don't like you. Some of you guys do agree, and you understand where I'm coming from. Is that I'm not disregarding that he's a great comic, that he is funny at times, but for me, he gets under my skin.
Yeah.
It's like nails on a chalkboard. He grates on me. What's that thing that Family Guy says? Well, you know what really grinds my gears?
Yeah.
It's Bill Burr.
And
you guys seem to enjoy it.
And he knows how to do it.
And so do our subscribers. They seem to find it absolutely hilarious.
So do I. I love it. Right then, Bill Burr. 5-year-olds have no excuse for being fat.
Okay.
Do you have anything to say about that?
No.
No?
No.
No? You never look at a really fat kid and just go, your parents will let you down, you.
Then there's an excuse there.
No.
Yes, there is. They are young. Let's get into it. Oh my God.
Hi man, what's up? How you doing? Was this too quick a transition? You know what I mean? Like 9, 10 black dudes in a row and then like the whitest man on the planet. Let your eyes adjust. I was watching George Bush today, man. I don't want to be a dick or anything, but could that guy like rehearse before he gives a speech? You know what I mean? Just say it like a couple of times. How awful was he during that hurricane? He's just walking out, man. He's just like winging it. Walking out on the White House lawn, there's like sun in his eyes. He's just out there like, there was a hurricane. People are wet. People don't like being wet unless they're swimming in a pool. He sounded like a little kid giving a book report who like didn't read the book. He's just up there making up shit like, there was a dog and he bit somebody and they didn't like it. Every night I gotta watch that idiot on the news or they're doing stories about how fat kids are getting. You see that every night? Every night they're talking about kids are obese now. Not fat kids, not chubby, they're obese. Like bedridden. Like just laying there like, I had my first heart attack when I was 4. I was riding on my big wheel, I couldn't feel my left side, I began to pass out my head. Yo, I don't want to be a dick, but how do you get that fat that quick? I can see you're 30, 40 years old. You went to McDonald's for 20 years. You got a little gut going. But you're 5 years old. There's no excuse for that shit. I'm telling you, man, that's the parents' fault.
Yep.
You know, stop feeding him. He doesn't have any money. You know, seriously. He can't go get a job so he can go buy more food. He's got to eat whatever you give him. Just put a plate of seaweed right in front of him. Go ahead, eat it. I don't want to eat it. Good, go to bed. Those are your options. I own you until you're 18. Do some jumping jacks. No, but these parents are ridiculous. They act like they have no control. They're like, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, I tried to make him eat a salad, but he didn't want to eat it. He was like, like, no, I want a cupcake. I said, you can't have it. But then he sat on my chest, and I couldn't breathe, and I just wanted to get up after a while. People, you need tough love at that moment. If your kid is obese and he's still asking for cake, you gotta be like, no, you little shit. You're eating carrots and celery until I can pick you up again. This is ridiculous. You got a goddamn hernia on your birthday. I know that seems harsh.
Thing is, I do fully agree with him. But like I said, if he's blaming the parents, that's the kid's excuse. It's an explanation as well, but yes, the parents need to be tougher. I absolutely agree with that. When I look at some of, like, obviously kids, and I think, why are the parents still giving you loads of sweets when you are increasing your risk of diabetes, obviously coronary issues?
Kids love running about being crazy.
They do
love it.
So it should be like given the opportunity, take them to the park, let them just burn off the energy, but also stop giving little bags of loads of sugary sweets all the time. It's not necessary.
Have you got anyone in mind when you're saying that? Is that directed at anyone?
Maybe. It's
I know that seems harsh to be making fun of obese kids. I'll tell you why I'm doing it. They don't really exist. At least to the level that they're saying it's an epidemic. You know, which means when I leave the theater tonight, I should have, like, difficulty getting to my car because of all these fat fucking kids out there, like, Jesus Christ, they're everywhere. They're like locusts.
Nice.
It's a way to describe, like, how much it's changed. And, like, do you know what? It's been going on for a number of years, probably over a decade. And I saw a scientific article when they showed a picture of a kid from the 80s, you know, so our generation.
Yeah.
And they were classed as being underweight and too skinny in this generation. Whereas actually that's a healthy weight for a kid.
Yeah, they moved the goalposts quite a lot to change the statistics on how many people are actually obese.
Absolutely.
They changed what obese is.
But I also understand that, like, for a lot of families, they are single parents, and trying to have like a 2 jobs or a single job where you're working ridiculous hours and having a life and then trying to feed your kids. And kids are picky. You see that. Like, we have to cook 3 different meals sometimes just to appease every child. And it must be so exhausting on your own as a single parent. So I understand why the processed foods, you know, and the packets come out, the chicken nuggets come out, the chips.
Well, I think the thing is...
And then go, oh, fine, have a bowl of cereal. Do you know what? I'm too tired to argue over a little bit of salad. Because yours and my generation was different. Like, I wasn't allowed to leave the table until I'd finished what was on my plate. And it had to be all the veggies. But I grew up loving veggies.
I grew up not particularly liking veggies because I was forced to eat them, though.
Right.
I associated it with sat at the table for 2 hours trying to force feed some mashed up carrot, and it's cold and it's grim.
I suppose we had pretty decent meals growing up back home, obviously before the issues with Zimbabwe started. But it wasn't often that we were allowed, like, sweets and cakes and things like that. And takeaway wasn't a common thing. Like, I used to get so excited about going to Creamy Inn or Pizza Inn because it was such a rare occasion. And then when I moved over to the UK, I realised how cheap and easy access it was for kids to get takeaway. Like you said, you had a paper round, like, at 13. No, you wanted one.
I wanted one until I turned 13.
But in Zimbabwe, it's not common for anybody under the age of 18 to be working unless you've left after your GCSEs and obviously gone into a career after that, to be earning and paying for food and obviously being able to just go and get a takeaway by yourself. Whereas here, it's on the streets. You get a bus into town and there's a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Taco Bell.
2 McDonald's here.
I know. That's it.
And there's a Burger King being built.
There's Greg's around the corner with, like, a pasties £1 and things like that.
None of it's that cheap anymore, though. Like, even you go to Greg's and get a couple of pasties and, like, a sausage roll, you're spending £4 or £5.
Well, we're talking about the cost of living since the pandemic has gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
Yes, everything's gone up. But you still, like what Oscar said, or Phoebe said, obviously, because they're earning pocket money at the moment doing chores with me in the week. And the first thing Phoebe said was to buy sweets. And you think about that, £2.50, she could get a whole bar of chocolate, a couple of packet of crisps, and a couple of, like, sweets as well, you know, like the...
Yeah.
And that's a lot of sugar and...
It is, but as a kid, like, you can't... as long as your kids aren't big fat fatties, then they should be allowed to have a treat. They should be allowed to have a fizzy drink every now and again, or to buy some sweets and things like that. It just shouldn't be part of everyday food. But you can't bring them up puritanically where it's like there is no sugar in this house.
No.
I grew up having like 2 sugars in my cups of tea all day, every day when I was Oscar's age.
I did too.
And then he has a cup of tea now and he has like half a sugar in it.
Yeah.
So we've gone better. Like, there's loads of sugar been taken out of absolutely everything.
And the E numbers.
Yeah, good old E numbers.
I miss them.
I know. I remember, like, when we used to go to Cornwall, they had the proper slushy machine.
Oh,
like
God.
The old school one where like it was full of E numbers.
Yeah.
And there was just kids, like, puking up, running around, pretty much doing backflips, just going crazy.
But then you say that, like, we reduced the sugar, and Oscar had, a piece of cake with some marzipan and a cupcake with some buttercream icing, and threw up all over the floor in the middle of the night because he had too much sugar. I think he's not used to it as well.
He was eating other things as well. He was sneaking. There was loads of snacks.
Yeah, there was loads of snacks.
Yeah.
He's funny like that because he does that. It's like I said to you when he got sick when we went to the fair and I'd been looking after them and we'd been baking cookies, and every time I looked over he was eating the dough or the icing. It was like, Oscar, it's not even got in the oven.
I think like kids' inclination is to run around and be mental.
Yeah.
And if you feed them full of sugar, and I'm not saying like loads, but if they eat some and then they're outside doing stuff, they're running around, they're riding bikes, they're doing whatever.
Yeah.
Great.
You balance it.
But if they're sat playing computer games and eating donuts at the same time when they're a little kid, they're going to get fat and unhealthy.
But
and
you
develop your heart muscle. I mean, like as a kid, it's so important to be active because if you're not, it's hard to undo all that damage or that growth that's not been done.
It's also the density of your bones and the way your muscle forms around the bone is being active at an early age. The early development years are so important for your biological makeup and your future health. It's like we talk about muscle memory, like people who've never done fitness find it a lot harder to become fit.
They get injured quicker as adults as well, don't they?
Whereas those who've obviously grown up in a world of sporting and obviously activity find it easier to either maintain that, or if they've had a few years off, to regain that. Obviously not to the same level, but it's easier and obviously less likely to get injury, like you say.
It's just like kids nowadays aren't encouraged to be outside as much, and there is the idea that it's not as safe. There's more cars on the road. I'm not letting my kids just ride their bikes on the road.
No, we had this discussion, didn't we?
It's not worth it. It's not worth it for one dickhead driver. Whereas when I was a kid, you get on your bike and you just ride off to wherever. So it's a bit tougher as well because there aren't the facilities for a lot of young kids. In the UK, there are not many skate parks outdoors. No. There's no youth centres. Like, things are expensive.
I was going to say, it's the cost in this country because there's not a lot of availability, and not a lot of schools will, because you have to volunteer as a teacher to do the after school clubs. You don't.
No, they get paid.
So they do get paid now. Because when I first came into the country, it was a volunteering service.
Literally, because they struggled to get one at my kids' school for a bit. And I saw the advert and the pay and the hours and stuff.
But growing up in Zimbabwe, obviously, we had larger back gardens and the weather was better, and I was on my bike all the time up and down the driveway every day. So...
Well, we keep working hard and then we can buy that 100 acres we've been talking about.
That would be lovely.
And the kids can just run rampage.
Well, they can do chores as well and muck out horses, let the cows out.
Mow the grass if you want your pocket money.
Can you imagine?
Bit? That 50 acres over there. Go and get on the ride-on lawnmower and go for it. Actually, that would be my job. I would literally be ride-on lawnmower, beer in hand.
Listening to a podcast.
Probably, yeah.
They can clean the chickens out.
I can't, I'm a bit of a Forrest Gump at heart. I can't think of anything better than just sitting there doing that all day.
It gets a little boring sometimes, like being in the combine harvester and just going up and down the field. It does. A little bit, after a while.
That's what I want.
Fair enough.
Right, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that too. That was quite tame for Bill Burr, really.
Yeah, it was actually, and for the most part I agreed with a lot of it.
But his early Bill... Well, I say early Bill Burr. I just Googled when Hurricane Katrina was. I knew it was early 2000s, but I didn't know exactly when. 2005.
Right.
So that was that was 19 years ago. And he's playing to a predominantly black crowd there, where it's like he said, it's like 9 black comics and then the whitest guy walks out on stage. I don't know if that affects his go-to bits are.
Maybe.
Because you do have to play to the crowd.
Or like saying, like he's probably building his career around that time, so he's careful a little bit more about what he says. I don't know. But either way, I love Bill Burr. I think he's one of the best, so there you go. Right, make sure you like and subscribe as always, and we will see you all soon. Bye, guys.